Congressman, 9th District, Republican, Southwest Virginia, God's country, Morgan Griffith from Salem, Virginia. Congressman, great to have you.
Good to be with you. Excuse me. Good to be with you this morning.
Okay, can you navigate through my excitement about the speech last night? I just thought it was such a great speech. Is it just me? What do you think?
No, I think it was a great speech. There's only one thing I would have added when he was talking about, we've got to work together and all. He could have easily said, we've all said things that we later regret. Let's just take a deep breath and get this thing done. And if he'd grinned then with that famous Trump grin, I think that would have helped. But that being said, I think it was a 99.9% win, and he showed humor. He delivered the lines he needed to deliver. He didn't go off message. He also made it clear that he's not going to back away from border security. He's not going to become a socialist. But he said, but there are things we can work on, and let's reach out and find the compromise and work it out. The Democrats have long talked about doing more electronics on the border. He mentioned that. So he put some things on the table that they could look at and say, well, we can work with him here. And then, of course, his dealing with the women's issues, and I just loved it when he looked over and he said, nope, don't sit down. Don't sit down. You're going to like this next line. I thought that was, to me, from a personal standpoint in reaching out to the members of Congress, that was a huge win because he was clearly having some fun.
Right.
But also making a serious point that he knew they were going to like.
Well, I love, too, that Nancy Pelosi, your speaker, really didn't want anybody to stand up and cheer. She was kind of giving them the evil eye there. She was going through her paperwork, whatever that was, which, by the way, I thought was just kind of crass and rude, but that's just me. But
well, it was interesting. I got to tell you, one of my colleagues leaned over and said, it looks like she's reading the menu for dinner. I thought that was a hilarious line.
It did look like I never thought. I was trying to figure out what is she reading. I even asked my wife last night over the phone when we talked when I was getting back from the watch event. It's like, what was Nancy? Do you have any idea what the speaker was reading? She's like, maybe her rebuttal or something. I have no earthly idea. But you're right. It was like she was reading the menu.
Well, it was clearly a large print edition of the speech in hindsight, but it was hard to tell by the way she was looking at it.
Well, and then the other thing that made me laugh is your colleague from Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, who was sitting there very nicely with her hands folded like she was told to do by, your speaker who was like, I don't know, in charge of the Stepford Wives or something. The whole scene to me was bizarre, but that's what they wanted to do. That's fine. But then Spanberger got up and led the charge of cheers, which really made me laugh. I thought that was pretty funny. That Spanberger is the first one that broke ranks and stood up and started to cheer when the president mentioned all the women in there, which I do think the speaker really had in mind when she set this up. Let's talk about reality now, Congressman. Speech is over. It was great. I have no doubt in my mind, based on what I saw last night and the past week, the president's going to win again, get reelected in 2020. But this isn't 2020. This is 2019. We still have 2 years to govern. You've got, 10 days remaining to get a deal done. What have you heard?
Well, it doesn't look like a whole lot is moving. It's amazing to me, and I do think the president has shown leadership. He definitely wants to go where he wants to go, but he has indicated several times that he's willing to compromise. He's there ready to compromise. The Republicans in the House are ready to compromise. That doesn't mean we're going to give away the store, but we also understand there's a lot that needs to be done to secure our border. And if the Democrats want more drones, they're right, we need more drones, but we need those drones to help us figure out how we stop people coming across a wall or a secure fence, whatever you want to call it. We need, we need all of that. And the Democrats could get a deal. It's amazing to me that there's some things that they want that really would, be hard for a lot of Republicans, including myself, to swallow. But in order to secure our border, because I see that as very important, and the president sees that as very important, they could get some things that they won't be able to get in a year or two, and that they want. And I don't understand why they're not throwing some things on the table. They won't get everything. We're not going to get everything. That's what a compromise is. But a compromise is not, and the Democrats seem to have lost the definition of compromise. Compromise is not, you do what we want, that means you compromise. Mm-hmm. No, it means you meet somewhere in the middle. And right now, it does not appear that the Democrats, Schumer, Pelosi, they are not willing to meet us in the middle. And that's it just drives me crazy. And I've got some historical context because Democrats always like to, if you give me a second, Democrats like to say, well, the president walked away from this deal or the president walked away from that deal. None of that is accurate. And the reason it's not accurate is that when they bring it up, they talk about this deal in the Senate. They never dealt the House in. Every time the Democrats bring up those deals, I go, that didn't include the House. Mm-hmm. It's not a deal if you don't include both sides of the Capitol. Mm-hmm. And the House believes the wall is extremely important, even more so than our friends in the Senate. I'm not saying all of them, but some of them don't see it the way we do. And as a result of that, when the Democrats say, oh, we've got a bipartisan deal, they've only talked to senators. They don't have a majority of the House members. And it must include the House. And in the past, the Senate didn't include the House. The president rightfully said, well, it can't do that. The House doesn't agree with you. And then the president gets blamed. It's unfair to the president. There's never been a bipartisan, bicameral deal that has been placed on the president's desk. When we can do that, then I think maybe we have something.
Congressman Griffith, give an example of, you said, and I don't want to get into hypotheticals, but you must have some evidence here, where you said just a moments ago that the Republicans and the president would probably be willing to give the Democrats some things they're not going to get under normal circumstances in the next 24 months that might make sense. Give me an example of what one of those compromises, sir, might be.
Well, they've always talked about the children, that they want to help the children, the dreamers.
Yes,
I don't think there's any question that we all want to see something positive happen with the dreamers.
Yes.
They could push that a little bit further and get more than most of us might be willing to do in exchange for securing that southern border. And it's not the classic promise that Reagan got, unfortunately, where it is, we will gladly, we will gladly pay you tomorrow for a hamburger today, or a cheeseburger today, as Wimpy used to always say in the Popeye cartoons. And the bottom line is we've got to see some real action of securing that border. You can do all of the things that the Democrats have said and build the wall because we can use it all. Not one single item is going to stop this flood. It's going to take an effort across the board on that southern border, and so there's lots of things we can do. But that's just one example of something where I think, people in Virginia would say, we don't want to hurt those kids, but we also want to make sure that we're getting our border secure. And if you put the two together, I think it's a win. It's a win for both sides. And I don't understand why the Democrats don't do that. And I don't know what else they might want to put on the table. But if I were them, I would put 4 or 5 items on the table and see, what they could get. And they're not going to get it all, but they'll get something. And we'll get something for the American people. And in the end, I think that's what compromise is about. And compromise is what we need right now in this country to move this situation forward. I was disappointed in the Democrats when they groaned when the president said that, there's a flood and there are more caravans coming. Now, that's fact. I don't know what world they're living in. And I haven't been down on the border within the last few weeks, and I'm on the show early today because I'm getting ready to leave to go meet with a border agent to talk about some of these issues. This is a serious crisis and a serious problem for the country, and it's going to take real negotiations, not partisanship, but real negotiations to try to solve that problem and put a little bit of what everybody wants into it.
Well, that's what compromise is, Congressman Griffith.
Yeah.
And certainly the Democrats who talked for 2 years about the dreamers and the kids and the dreamers and the kids and the kids and the dreamers, now there's an opportunity to make a deal that might include an opportunity for them to get some certainty. The president certainly alluded to that. Now, many people on the Ann Coulter wing call it, a sellout and whatever. It's going to end his chances for reelection. in all due respect to Ann, she's a friend of mine. I don't believe that. I mean, I don't think there is anybody in this country that really believes that ICE is going to go around and find kids here legally with their parents, round them up, put them on a Greyhound bus, and ship them to Tijuana. It's just not going to happen, and it shouldn't happen. So there's got to be a way out forward. But I think that's the art of compromise, and that's what you do in a divided government. The Democrats are not willing to do that. And in fact, one of your Democratic colleagues the other day introduced legislation, forget the border, forget the wall, forget security, forget all that. She introduced legislation basically to provide any migrant that comes over the border with complete welfare protection, housing, phone, food, food stamps, welfare, car fare, transportation. I mean, I am serious as a heart attack. I mean, she actually introduced that legislation that said, if you can find a way to get here, we will fund you. I mean, that is an insane bill. Like, who would do that? But that's where the Democrats are right now, and they're doing it, as I've said, since they've been in the air for 8 years, Congressman. The Democrats are doing it for one reason: get cheap votes. That's it. They can't win with the people in the country now, so, hey, let's get new voters in, make them dependent on the government, give them entitlements. They have to vote for Democrats to then keep the dependence and the entitlements up, and they're going to vote for us, and that's how we win and stay in power in perpetuity. That's it. Now, Congressman, you've been to the border. This crisis is real. We got another caravan coming now. How do we stop this, sir?
Well, once we secure the border, we make it clear that we're not going to have people coming in here and using our social safety net 100%, and we don't want people starving. Of course, we don't want people dying of thirst. But making it clear that it's not going to be as easy to get in or as rosy a picture as some would want to paint, then I think people will start saying, you know what, maybe we won't travel, particularly in light of the coyotes. And I'm sure that while they sell a pretty picture, I'm sure that some of the stories about human trafficking and the terrible things that happen to some of these people when they get to the border where the cartels control the Mexican side, I've got to believe that some of them would be dissuaded from coming north. But, we are a great country, and as we make our economy better, it makes it more attractive. That's a positive. We need to have legal immigration, and we need to take a look at that as well and make that a little bit easier. But we want people to be legal, and if they want to share the American dream, great. But if they're part of the cartels, if they're doing drug deals across the border in massive quantities or any quantity, but particularly the cartels are shipping in just huge numbers of illegal drugs. Mm-hmm. We got to put a stop to it. We've got to make it harder.
No question about it. Congressman, got 2 minutes. I want to shift gears. Virginia, you served in the state legislature. I know you know this question was coming. You served in the state legislature. You were in leadership for the Republicans. Ralph Northam, the president called him out last night, said that he talked about executing babies, used the word execution, which I thought was pretty dramatic. Should Ralph Northam resign?
Well, look, the picture is horrible. It's inexcusable. I don't understand how on Friday you can say you're sorry you were in the picture, and on Saturday say you weren't in the picture. If he really didn't believe he was in the picture, more stories come out. Sounds like that's what he believed all along. And why did you come out with that statement on Friday? As a criminal defense attorney before I went to Congress, I'd have a very hard time selling that to a jury. Now, that being said, I consider myself a friend of Ed Gillespie's. I campaigned hard for Ed Gillespie. I worked hard for Ed Gillespie. I never wanted to see Ralph Northam in the office. And so, I have a hard time saying that I have any right to say whether or not he should stay or go. That's a Democrat issue. They're the ones who nominated him. They're the ones who elected him. I wasn't one of those people. I was for Ed.
Don't you feel that if Ed's Oppo team found this information right now, we'd be calling him Governor Gillespie?
I think there's certainly a strong likelihood of that, particularly in the way that Governor Northam has handled this, and particularly with those ads that they ran against Ed. And even though it may not have been the direct campaign, if they had dropped this picture out there immediately after those ads ran that claimed that Ed was a racist who was going to round up, all the children of color and send them off somewhere, I think it would have been devastating to the Northam campaign.
Unbelievable. Justin Fairfax, you're a lawyer. What's the deal there, Congressman?
Well, when he first came out and said there were red flags and inconsistencies, and that's why the Post wouldn't write the story, I thought, I wonder what those are. Then the Post came out and said, yeah, that didn't happen. They just didn't have corroboration. It was he said, she said. Mm-hmm. So that indicates a lack of judgment there on the lieutenant governor's part. He shouldn't have said it if it weren't true. Mm-hmm. Who knows what happened? I don't. But he certainly mishandled that, and he also said that he was going to sue some people. My response to that was, bring it on, because as a public figure, unless you can show actual malice and that this woman, is just making it up and that she doesn't believe this to be true and it's all political, you don't have a lawsuit. Further, you get, as a result of that, you would be examined under oath in depositions. If I'd have been on the other side of that, I said, bring it on, because everything is fair game in a slander suit.
Bring it on, I think, is going to be the mantra here. We'll see how this plays out. Not good. Joe Morrissey, who you served with, who is a friend of mine, told me last night that as far as this young lady taking action against Fairfax legally, that he said she had no standing because it's 15 years later, there's no corroboration, there's no proof, she didn't go to anybody, and you can't prove it. So that's not going to happen, but obviously it's very damaging politically. And for the Democrats now, I mean, you have to, they say you should believe the woman, so we'll see what plays out. Yeah. Wow. A lot of things going on. Congressman.
Hey, if we have time, got a quick fun story.
Go ahead.
I put Todd Gilbert on the phone last night with Vice President Pence.
Really?
And the Vice President thanked him for standing up strong for life.
Good deal. Todd Gilbert, hopefully we'll have him on a show. I'm live, by the way, in the Capitol in Richmond on Friday with my show. We'll be in Speaker Howell's conference room on the 6th floor. Hopefully we can get Todd on, and I'll mention that fun story. Congressman, I'm way over my time. I got to go. Thank you.